My boss loves to call me at 6:15 a.m. to ask me if I would like to fill the shifts of the people who just called in sick. This is an everyday thing. I was bored and frustrated, so I decided to volunteer at 3:30 a.m. to call this same manager to ask if they needed extra help. He got super pissed and tried to write me up for it. I showed the GM the timestamps of the calls I had received. I don't get calls anymore. Relevant comments. When my old job added an extra shift in the warehouse, I worked in the office doing customer service. My boss told me that he instructed the night crew to call me if they had questions about orders, shipping, etc. I told him they could call, but I won't answer.
He was pissed and asked why.
I reminded him I was hourly, not salary, and once I clocked out, my day was done. Most people in my department were on salary. I told him I would take calls if I got overtime. No reason he couldn't have answered the calls then.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
Boss said we must take lunch at 12 o'clock, so we did. At my old job, we used to have flexible lunch breaks at work. Could go anytime between 11:30 to 2 o'clock. Just made sure someone was covering. Worked fine. New manager comes in, says everyone must take lunch at exactly 12 o'clock. No exceptions. Okay then, 12 o'clock hits. We all just walk away. Phones ringing, customers mid-sentence, not our problem. Boss looked panicked, trying to handle it all. By the time we got back, it was a complete mess. Next day, new rule, lunch between 11:30 to 2 o'clock is fine. So back to normal? Cool, boss. I like this one comment. The lesson here for new managers is don't make any changes for a while. Whatever the reason for the previous person leaving or the position opening up, let the inmates run the asylum for a bit. Learn their habits, their abilities, their commitment, their personalities, etc. Then use that information to adjust schedules, priorities, and responsibilities. Just sit back and observe for a while. Walking in and changing things in the first day, week just reeks of superiority and entitlement. Get to know the company and team before doing a thing other than figuring out where the kitchen and restrooms are.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
Hid tuna fish and curtain rod. This was years ago, but I'm still proud of it. A girl in trade school would very casually call me a dyke because she thought it was hilarious. I never said anything about it, but I ended up at a house party at her house. I found a can of tuna and decided to go into a couple of vacant rooms like the spare room and laundry room and pull apart the curtain rods and stuff canned tuna in them. A master plan in my mind. That stuff stinks, and when you smell something weird in your house, you're going to check a lot of places, but never the curtain rod. For weeks after that party, I would overhear her talking to her friend about the smell that her and her boyfriend couldn't find. I got a lot of joy out of that. Edit. I should add, someone did walk in on me doing this. He just smiled and told me to carry on and left. He never did snitch. Nick, if you're out there, you're a real one.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
Last day in the office. I 29 meters worked at a small company as a salesman for the better part of 4 years. As my sales went up, my income went down due to restructuring, etc. Meanwhile, my boss and I would butt heads pretty frequently, but somehow not enough to get fired. On my last day, they took my accounts away in the morning but wanted me to stay until 3 for an exit interview. I had already cleaned out my desk and legitimately had nothing to do, but wait, there ended up being a box and a half of business cards left over, approximately 700, that I hid everywhere. I didn't leave stacks here or there. I hid every individual one. My boss's shades were up, so I tucked close to 50 in between the shutters. When the shades close, it will rain. I put them under people's see-through rubber mats for their chairs. I tucked them into unused rolls of paper towels so they fell one by one when in the dispenser. We also had a small warehouse with hundreds of boxes. Every single open box ended up with my business card in them. They are hidden throughout the first aid kit, behind pieces of art on the wall, lining the conference room windows, you name it. They will be finding my cards for years to come.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
Time to inflate your commission? How about no? I'm not sure if this fits here, but a friend suggested that you all might get a laugh out of this. About 22 years ago, I was buying an old farmhouse and land that had been on the market for 2 years. I liked what I saw, knew there was going to be a ton of work to make it habitable, but I was willing to put the time and money into it. Contacted their agent, and everything was going swimmingly. 48 hours from exchanging contracts, and what do you know? A new buyer has offered £30,000 over my offer, but the seller's like me, so if I can go £5,000 above that, the agent is sure I will be able to get the house. Now, my parents were many things, but they did not bring me up to be a fool, and I was well aware that I was being played, and he was trying to inflate his commission. I simply told the estate agent to advise the sellers to take the increased bid, and to make it easier, I was withdrawing my offer immediately. I was willing to take the financial loss of all the surveys, etc., because I don't like being screwed over by anyone. I wish I was a fly on the wall to see how that conversation went. By chance, I saw the sellers in town about 3 months later, and they said that that they hoped that I was recovering from my illness that had forced me to withdraw from the sale. Yes, that was genuinely the story the estate agent had come up with. Now, I could have nodded and smiled, but I decided to tell them the truth instead. That their estate agent had tried to squeeze me for an additional £35,000 and that because of his actions, the property was still for sale. Long story short, we had a chat and they were still willing to sell to me, and since I had all the paperwork, surveys, etc. ready to go, they could pull the property from the market and we could just get solicitors to do their bit and conduct it as a private sale. So that's what we did. I got my house, the sellers got a fair price, and the agent didn't get a penny. Was it petty? Yes. Was it worth it? Absolutely.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
My coworker had the pettiest of revenges with our tantrum-throwing boss. Our boss was a petty tyrant. He would do things that put us in difficult situations, then yell at us while blaming us for the hassle. Best of all, he was impatient man-child. My coworker, Tom, was stuck in the office more than I was. Poor bastard. Tom's petty revenge was driving our boss more insane, yet our boss had no idea he was doing it. Our boss had the nice big office up front. The printers were in the back. Tom and I sat in the cube arm between them. The boss would print out something, then quickly and impatiently sprint to pick up what he printed. He was hyper-focused on getting that printout. Most times the laser printer spun up and our boss moved from his office. Tom would get up from his cube and get in his way. He would walk slowly to the printers, or he would be carefully carrying a coffee cup that was filled to the top, or waddling awkwardly towards the bathroom. Sometimes he would do that side, which where are you gonna go, hopping as they tried to dodge each other. But Tom never got it right and they ended up running into each other. I watched this happen whenever I was in the office. Tom was doing this multiple times per day. Our boss had no idea, but his blood pressure went up every time he went to retrieve a printout. Thank you, Tom. Against all odds, you made that place a tiny bit more tolerable.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
A problem employee didn't know the word slighted. I made sure my emails used wording they might not know. Edit. Thank you, kind internet strangers, for the award. Completely unexpected and not necessary. I appreciate that you enjoyed this story enough to give one out. I am a supervisor and I had a wretched employee. She caused so many interpersonal problems that we lost people because of her. There was an incident that she was involved in and she felt like someone had insulted her and she didn't want to cover this person's shifts anymore in the very near future. I got my director involved because this person is very hard to deal with. We basically had to convince her to not burn this bridge because it was just going to cause more problems. My director at one point said, "I know you feel slighted." And this person stopped the conversation and asked her to repeat the word and said she didn't understand what she meant. The director kindly and patiently explained what she meant. Well, I tucked this bit of information away. I didn't think the word slight was that uncommon of a word. So it made me think, what other intelligent sounding words can I use to get under this person's skin? So I started to use words in my emails to her, to the group, anywhere I could think of that were above average reading level, high school level. Nothing crazy. Sometimes I would even Google synonyms of words to elevate the email a little bit. One day, the wretched employee sent a department-wide email. It was a daily email that everyone gets with daily safety notes. Usually someone else wrote the emails during the daily meeting, but that person was off that day. Anyway, she uses profanity in the email. Just one word, nothing to anyone. Just said, "Good job getting shit done." And I was like, really? Everyone can read this. So I email her and ask her to not use profanity in an email as it sets an irreverent tone, and I wouldn't want there to be anything misconstrued that this isn't a professional environment. Very polite but firm. Her response, of course, was over the top. Said I was singling her out, other people have done it, they had not, blah blah blah. Another colleague and I were talking on the phone that evening and that the wretched employee had called her and complained about my email, and especially complained about the word misconstrued. I think her words were, "Who even says that? I don't even know what that means." Cue Grinch shit eating grin. I told my colleague this colleague is a friend and hates this wretched employee as much as me, but they used to be friends. I did that on purpose and had been doing it for a while. She laughed and thought that was amazing. I was like, thank you, and internally took a bow.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
Okay, I'll stay on camera. Years ago, before Sports Authority went out of business, I worked there as a hardline/receiving manager of one of their stores. Terrible company, I'm glad they went out. They were positively obsessed with the possibility of employee theft. Understandable, I know, but don't be such shissa-heads, and you might lower your chances. Unloading a truck at the store for some bizarre reason required someone to stand on the dock plate while the seal number was called in. Never understood why. One day, the guy assisting me with the unload couldn't find the phone number to call in the seal number, where it was written on the desk for some some reason. I stepped off the dock plate, not even fully sure I stepped off camera, but stepped off the dock plate to point yell at him where it was. Location ops manager, glorified head cashier. Gives me a warning, I guess. I think her name was Robin, and she essentially had battered wife syndrome with her job. Okay, I'll stand on the dock plate. Except I have ADD, get bored easily, and have a penchant for acting inappropriately in situations. Cue up dancing on the dock plate and riding an imaginary horse while the person calls in the seal number. Did I mention I suck at dancing? Ops manager decides I'm not taking this with all the seriousness she can conjure up and reports me to district loss prevention manager. Shows him tape of me dancing in the dock plate and asks him what they're going to do about it. It got back to that his response was nothing. He's doing exactly what we told him to do.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.